Hey Pip, thank you for joining. I'm just trying to just make sure these windows are clean. There's a little bit of keyboard cleaning gel, so it's non-adhesive, but it just might pick up a little bit of the debris that's inevitably going to be attracted to acrylic acetate. So with that on, I just want to stick a piece of black cardboard behind the window, just to give it a bit of depth. I'm just trying to work out where that's going to go. A little bit of super glue there. And that just sit roughly behind there like that. I'm probably going to need some more, because I'm going to need another one behind both those windows there. What I've done here is just glue a piece of thin styrene behind the wall to emulate blinds, curtain blinds. I'm just trimming off the excess, so you see there, just behind the window, there's a little slightly wonky blind. I've already pre-fixed some of these window frames in, as you can see. They're not actually glued in just yet, they're just rested loosely, just to make sure they fit. And that's the big bay window. Just going to need a little bit nibbling off the bottom there so it fits. Which I managed to do off screen. It still needs a little fraction shaving off, but it's mostly there. I just make sure I press on really tightly with that little knife, just to make sure it's not going to slip. Yeah, that's a better fit. This is the part where I discover I'm missing a window. And it does actually look like I'm missing the other window for that corner, which is slightly frustrating. No matter, if it is missing, I'll just have to make another one. It's just a minor inconvenience. I'll have a look around afterwards and see if I've just managed to brush it underneath something. But it most definitely looks missing right now. That's most definitely not that window. I think this is this one, but it's just going to need a bit of trimming. That's not that one. It must be one of these side ones. Yeah, these all require just a tiny little bit of tweaking just so that they will fit. I'm just going to do a little bit of internal remedy work. Not remedy work, it's just a little bit of propping. Just going to have to put a little bit of board just in there to offset that a little. It would help if I was using both the right glue and tuck the lid off. dear, I've managed to get glue on the inside of that glass. That's going to mean pulling that window off. Ah, well, these things happen. I'm not happy with getting glue on the inside of that, so it's going to have to come off. See, sometimes even though you really try and be careful, it still goes a little bit astray. So these are some of the perils that come to test you. Hello, Mitsuo. Thank you for saying hello. This is a bit of live model destroying. I've managed to get glue on the inside of that window, and it's super glue, so it won't wipe off. So rather than living with it, I'm taking the whole thing off. So we'll start again. I'll put a new piece of Perspex in. Thankfully, the situation occurred before I've got the window frame. Sorry, yes, the window frame stuck to it. So a little bit of trying to be as careful as I can so I don't destroy the inside of the wall. That's mostly off. There we go. I've managed to remove the damaged bit of acetate, and I'm going to replace that with a slightly thicker piece of clear plastic for the sake of this. So previously I used where's it gone? Did I just throw it away? Previously I used a thin piece of acetate, but this time I'm going to use this slightly thicker PETG plastic, just because I want it to be right. It's a bit more difficult to cut through. This has a protective film on both sides. I mean, I probably should have used this to start off with, to be fair. I'm going to leave that one on because it's easier to see. So one side's got a slightly translucent one on, one side's got a slightly see-through one. Did it work okay for you then, David? I didn't get an awful lot of feedback about that one. But welcome along. I'm going to be here for an hour, and then I'm going to migrate over to YouTube, where I use... Sorry, no, this is YouTube. I'm going to migrate over to TikTok, which is where I stream most of the time. I am trying to persuade everyone to come over here, because I do prefer YouTube. But I do have quite a few loyal followers on TikTok that aren't on here. But anyway, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you enjoyed the Christmas cabin. Be nice to see a photograph of it if you can find some way of sharing it. Excuse me, I've got a cough. Okay, so I'm going to I've just put some glue and glaze down that central mullion, and now I'm going to glue. So I put some super glue a little bit further away from the edge of the window, because I don't want that super glue to twist in. You made one as well, didn't you, Pip? Yours was excellent. I am going to do another build along thing sometime this year, but I've got a lot to catch up with, so I can't say when that's going to be. Now, because I've still got the film on that side, I can just use fingers at the back to press on. There's a little bit of glue that's seeped out there, but this is the white glue and glaze. That's actually going to be where the frame is, so I'm not too fussed about that. That should glue fairly quickly. Well, you see, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? You can adjust and adapt to whatever you want. I mean, the basic template of the shed, here's one I've made earlier, means that you can do anything you want with it. So this is this is actually a production part. I actually used that for the filming because I had to redo it. You're just in time for seepage. You timed that well, Christopher. And perhaps if David sent me a picture of it, I can share it on the community pages on here. I'm going to try and glue another frame back on the outside to get that black in. Or if you go through to my Instagram link, which you should be able to find through the homepage on here, then you should be able to send me an image that way. I think that's the easiest way. There, that's better. That's what I intended to do. There's a couple of marks on the upstairs window. I'll have to see if I can remove those, and if not, it's going to have to suffer the same fate of pulling it apart. It is the slight frustration about windows that they are so delicate that sometimes it's a real struggle to avoid miscolouring them. That's better. I'm putting a piece of black behind so it gives the shadow of depth and the illusion that there is depth to the window, or there's a room beyond. And this one's got a slightly broken inner frame which I can glue back together once it's in place. I'm just going to look and see if I can take that little mark off the inside of that window. Good evening, Go For It Painting. How are you? Glad it's the weekend. That's much better than it was. Right, so I just found a piece of black card that I can use for the inside bit here now. Perfect. Just going to glue that to a piece of board. Has everybody seen my latest video that I posted today? Just a bit of a talking head video today. And showing some of my previous buildings. If you want to go and check that out, that'd be really cool. Back to making tutorials next week, hopefully. Just need to get back on track. Miniature Misfit, thank you very much. I did see your comment. Thank you. I'd love another furlough period. Just imagine that. We've decided, because you've had a really miserable last couple of years, anybody that wants to can go and just sit at home and we'll pay you 90% of your wage. Good evening, David. tidy this up. And then I need to shave off a very small fraction either side so it fits. Yeah, I know. What can we dream, can't we? It was a very fortunate period of time, but I had to combine that. What I didn't mention in the video is that I had to combine that period of frantic model making with also overseeing home education. So it wasn't a matter of just switching myself off into a corner for days on end. My son needed homework supervision constantly, or homeworking. It was quite a taxing time, to be honest. But I certainly wouldn't have been able to be as anywhere near as productive if I hadn't had that time. Yeah, I don't know. I managed somehow. You see, I I work most evenings as well. This is why you always see me. Well, if you ever caught me live before, most evenings I'm live streaming as I'm building. It's a great way of motivating yourself to actually get stuff done. Sorry, I do this quite often. I'm looking for the sandpaper now. It's a great way of motivating yourself to get on because you've got people watching you, and it feels it's quite motivating, because otherwise you'd just be sat doing nothing. Yeah. Well, if you're used to it, that's a great thing, isn't it? But it is quite sapping when if you're not geared to being a teacher. It's hard to motivate the kids because they think they're at home and they can just relax. Actually, what I could do, rather than trying to trim a little bit off that window, is just tweak the bottom of the mullion here. It just needs ever so slightly shaving so that I can get the window in. I think that's part of the issue, is that creating that little beveled shape there wasn't quite so accurate. And when it comes to fitting the window, it doesn't. Good evening, Joe. Thank you for joining. That is true, yes. I mean, he managed, though. My daughter was at home at the same time, but she was in GCSE year, and they decided from April onwards that year that they were not going to actually sit exams, so she basically finished school in late March and sat in a bedroom doing nothing, or almost nothing, for a fair few months. So she was less difficult to deal with because she didn't have anything to do. Right, that's perfect. Perfect in height anyway. I just need to shave a little bit off either side so it fits. Again, I could probably shave a little bit off that mullion. The mullion being the central part, because the window is quite fragile. I think the good thing is, though, that because we were home, we could have like regular PE lessons. So it was quite a good period that he'd do some work, I'd do some work. Although my work was quite enjoyable because I was building models. And then we'd go out for a long bike ride for PE. So I'm using this set square here to hold it really tight against the piece and ensure that I'm going to cut a straight line. When you are making by hand, you do get a little bit of fractional tolerance, by which things don't necessarily fit properly. And you do require a little bit of additional tweaking. The only thing is, though, that now I'm going to have to repaint that inside frame very carefully. Cross country at any time is bloody awful, though, really. I did it because we got to play football afterwards, because the cross country part of it didn't actually last very long. So for the rest of the session, we used to have a mini football match. Now, is that going to be a better fit? I think it is. What a great idea. Why didn't I think of that earlier? Now, as you can see, that little central glazing bar there is just split, because this is like 0.3 millimeters. And it's extremely fiddly, so it's to be forgiven if they snap. And this is quite frustrating. So the idea was I was going to glue it back together once I'd got it in place. I'm actually tempted, because these are quite snug fit, I'm actually tempted to leave it unglued. Just have a snug pop fit, as it were. I used to like rounders as well. I was quite good at rounders. I always preferred it with the round bat, though, not this tiny cricket bat, because that felt a lot more authentic. I used to love a game of rounders. The one thing I can remember quite well, though, is we used to actually play rounders not in PE. If it was in the summer, the teacher used to suddenly decide that in the afternoon, instead of lessons, we were just going to play rounders instead. Oops, stomach rumbling there for some reason. I have eaten. There we go. Width-wise, this one was much better. So all I need to do there is just tack that little glazing bar in. I'm not going to use super glue for that. I'm going to use a very small little bit of plastic glue, just with a cocktail stick, and dab it into place. So I just put a little bit on this scrap piece of plastic card here. I've got some glue on my finger. I must get that clean. Okay. I'm sure we can do it somehow. I can't remember if I've got an email address associated with this YouTube account. Somebody asked about that the other day. I thought I'd put an email address. I can't. This is frustrating, isn't it? I can't get it in. I was assuming you had Instagram already. It's not gluing. It's not gluing. Let's try a little bit more behind it. I don't want to put an awful lot of glue on because it's going to smear. The last thing we want to do is smear. I might concede defeat on this for a little while. Come back to it. It's one of those things, if it's not working, you need to step away from it and go do something else. Although as soon as you concede defeat, it actually works. That is a good tip, actually. Yes, super glue does work better in slightly damper environments. It's not super glue I'm using here, but it's a good one. That's why activator spray works, because the chemical that's in that speeds it up. Nothing more so frustrating though than with super glue that you're waiting for it to properly set and it just doesn't. Okay, so the idea behind having glued the windows in is that I can get the part of the roof fixed in place, which I've already pre-made. I wanted to be able to get that done so I could glue this down. But I'm going to have to do a bit of fine tweaking now. Fine-tuning. More fine-tuning. Because of that blanking plate that I've put in. I think what I'm going to have to do with these side window pieces here, or at least that one, is glue that back on after the effect. That's a good tip too. This part is completely unplanned, so it's a bit of a matter of just chipping away at it. This is the substructure that's a little trickier to do, but it's a very difficult, very complex roof, so they're quite tricky little beasts to work out. So sometimes you just have to hack away at your template until you can get it to fit. You know, 16 is the most amount of people I've had on a YouTube stream. So thank you all for watching. Nearly there now. What's blocking this from fitting? I think it's that. Thank you. I know there's a lot of modelers that make really fantastic looking wargame scenery, but it's a much bigger scale. So my scale here is a little bit trickier to manage. And I'm not the tidiest of modelers just yet, in so much that my space is really limited. So I'm kind of literally working on a small table here. I've not got much depth of field either. If I was making this as a fully modelled interior, I'd obviously be a little bit more thoughtful in terms of how the rest of the structure worked. But as it is, I can just make a rough internal structure. It's just basically holding everything together. Now at this point I'm almost ready to glue that substructure on. Once I do that, that's going to make things a heck of a lot more stable. Do I need to hack that, or can I get away with it as it is? I'm going to have to stick a piece of roofing on there, so it probably needs to be shaved. This is a commission piece, yes. This is a customer's house up in Scotland. It's a Victorian, he calls it a villa. Let me just see if I can quickly show you on the laptop the reference picture I'm working off here. I'm trying to film this one that most of the construction as we go. Obviously the bits on YouTube are going to be harder to edit out, but I'll do my best. Okay, so if we can see that, let me try and get it on the screen. Let's get the ring light out of the way. No, we can't do that, can we? So that's the house that I'm building. This one's got a bit of more roof to do to it yet, but it is a gorgeous house, isn't it? I love building stone houses. So that's my reference photograph. Well, I've got loads of reference photographs, but that's the view that we're looking at there. So it's quite a nice ornate front, and then the rear is a lot more rough. I've just got a little bit of patching in to do on that corner, but this also has an outhouse kind of extension. I don't know what to call it. It's an extension building that fits in there. So I'm kind of working my way around adding windows. There's a a major front door to install in there, which I have started with. I've done another thing where I've misplaced the front door. I had it earlier, so I think it's gone the same way as that rogue window. So what I'm gearing up to do now is gluing this roof substructure in place, and then on top of that I've got some tiled roof that I'm going to add, but I need to get, like I say, I need to get this in place first, and then I'm going to make a paper template for the rest of it. So this has a gable roof. It comes off it. There's like an eyebrow dormer that fits in that section there. And that noise you can hear in the background is my trusty hound companion, who potters around the studio whilst I'm working. He has to be constantly where I am. Right, I'm going to commit to gluing this part of the roof back on. Or on, not back on. So I'm going to use super glue for that. And the dog's just about to clamber over the cable. Yep. You just tied yourself in a knot, Tim. Never mind. says. I don't care. My worst ever experience with superglue was an ill thought out bit of plastic casing. I'd made a little, well, completely different type of model, but I'd made a replica of a commemorative bench for a client, because I make anything model making wise, but I'd made a little commemorative bench for a client who wanted a replica of a memorial bench that they'd had done for somebody they'd lost. They just wanted it as like a little shelf piece. Anyway, I'd made it, and I'd ordered a little acrylic case for it to live in. And one night I was fitting the case in place. You can see where this is going, can't you? I was fitting the case in place. I thought, right, I'm just going to super glue it very, very carefully to the base, because I need it to be able to sit solid. And it glued perfectly, apart from the fact that CSI style, overnight, it revealed a massive thumbprint that I'd left behind on the inside of the case. Yes, it was a definite oh no. So I had to sort of admit to the client that I'd sort of made a massive error and got super glue fingerprints. Super glue fumes, that's what did it. Yeah, it was super glue fumes that had revealed the big thumbprint. So I had to hack the case back off. Basically, it was a ruined case. Nothing I could do about it. The bench itself was fine. I just damaged the case, and I had to order a new one. But it just slowed everything down. So lesson learned there, for definite. I was just trying to be quick, and it backfired on me. Once this substructure is in place, the model becomes a lot more. The bench was fine, yes. Yeah, so now that roof substructure is in place, the model is now a bit more structurally sound. I will do the same to the other, but I just needed to, I wasn't ready to glue the roof on until I'd got access to the other windows. Now I've still got some little sanding down there because I discovered it was a little bit uneven. So that's why that looks like that. Height-wise, this looks fine. This is a little bathroom window. To achieve that frosting effect there on the window, I've just painted the glass surface with poly glue, which has just helped to sort of frost the window up. So height-wise, it looks right. It's just width-wise, it's a little bit too wide. Now I've got a lot more give on this window frame here, so I can just shave a little bit off either side. I've changed to a new scalpel blade relatively recently. Yeah, perfect. Yes, I do like hairspray. Hairspray is a multi-use material. that is upside down because it's tall bit to the top. It is, isn't it? The only thing you've got to watch out for is if you're using hairspray as a glue, you know, to fix scenic materials down, then it is the other way around. It's small bit at the top, not big bit at the top. Good job I looked. If you're using hairspray as a glue, then just keep it away from damp environments, because hairspray being for people's hair, it is water soluble. So you do tend to, in humid environments, it does tend to start degluing. So I'm going to do the same as I did on the other side now and just square off that bottom window frame. Sometimes if you're cutting by hand, it's very easy to get a slightly untrue opening cut. It might look square on the front of the cut, but it tends to wobble off a little bit at the back. So that's why, mostly why these windows are a little bit tight in places. It's fine at the very front of the window opening, but as it gets to the depth of the reveal, it's just a little off square. I will just have to very carefully repaint these bits that I'm shaving flat. There we go. Just check for fit, and I'm just going to have to just do a little bit of tinkering with the frame. It's a little bit fuzzy. Still a little bit too tight. I could do with getting myself a new cutting mat. This is getting far too scruffy now. I won't be buying another cheap one. It's a false economy. They just rip to pieces. Apologies for the scraping noise. Just a little bit of fuzziness from when I glued it all together. That I'm just trying to shave off. So this was made using my Cricut machine. I made the window in layers and then glued it all together. It was one of my big investment pieces in lockdown. I'd actually seen somebody else using it to great effect. I thought, I need one of those. I used to have access to a vinyl cutting machine, which I used to make window frames and roof pieces with. It's extremely expensive, but I must admit it's kind of paid for itself over the course of the last 3 years. I've used it a heck of a lot. I use it for making window frames mostly. I also use it for making the shape of the model. And in this instance, I drew out, for this model here, I drew all the stonework in a drawing program. And I used the Cricut to engrave the rough shape or the rough pattern. I've then gone over it by hand, embellishing all the stonework one by one, but the Cricut just drew it out first. So it drew out the outline for me on a piece of Foamex with all the windows cut into place, and then it drew the rough outline of all the stones, and then I've gone back over all the stonework with the scribing tool and just chiseled it all in. Hi Georgia, how are you doing? There's a guy, if anybody of you have come across Everard Junction on YouTube, he's a railway modeller. He was the guy that persuaded me that I needed a Cricut. He was making a block of flats, and he just used it to create all the repetitive shapes. I was like, I need one of those. I'm okay, Georgia, thank you very much. Doing my usual 2-part live tonight. I'll be on here for another few minutes, and then I'll take a little break and go over to the other place. I need to just adjust that window frame. It's a little bit too much at the bottom. Let's prop that up with the cork. Yeah, that's the cork that I was using to create the flowers in my How to Create a Flower video from last week. They have multiple uses, these old corks. So I don't know if you can see there, that's the level of detail that the Cricut can cut out. I've cut this out in 3 layers, which has enabled me to create a realistic looking miniature sash window. Of course you can create all these things with the modern resin 3D printers and laser cut machines. The Cricut though doesn't give away any poisonous fumes. Let's just mark there where I need to trim it. Oops. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to use the set square lined up against the edge of the model there, and we're just going to reshape that window frame there. Just a few passes so I've got the line established, and then I can follow it in with the scalpel by hand. It's not quite there. I just need to trim a little bit more off that one. Maybe I can take a bit off the bottom of the glass. Again, I'm going to need to put a little bit of window blind in there before I commit to gluing the glass in place. But let's just try and shave a little fraction off the bottom of the window frame so I can get it to fit. Get it to fit first and then worry about the rest of it. There we go, that's better. I think it's just a little bit loose at the back there. Yeah, we're a bit tight at the back, glass-wise. Easily sort that out. Right, I've been on here for an hour now. I'm going to take a short break now and go and get a cup of tea, etc. And I'm going to go and relocate over to TikTok. So if any of you are already following me on TikTok, I'll be back live across there shortly. So thank you very much for watching tonight, and I will see you all again very soon. Thank you.